Welcome to audio lecture series on Dr. Kent's lectures on homeopathic Materia Medica. In previous part of the lecture, Kent describes a general aspect of the remedy, like the pains of China, its periodicity, sensitiveness, symptoms of mucous membranes in general and some of the peculiar mental symptoms. Let us now continue with part 2. In this lecture, we will take up the study of symptoms of head, eyes, ears, nose, face, teeth, taste, stomach, respiration, genitals and also symptoms of thirst and character of diarrhea of China. Let us see how China affects head of a person. The remedy is full of headaches. Congestive headaches in broken down constitutions. Extremities cold and body covered with a cold sweat. Rending, tearing pains. Pressing and throbbing. As soon as the air strikes the head, those pains come on. Headache is better in a warm room, worse from touch, worse from motion, worse from cold. These are the principal features. A slight touch will aggravate the disturbance. But notice the exception. Hard pressure ameliorates the China pains, as light pressure aggravates. Sensitiveness of the tissues, sensitiveness along the course of the nerves, the pains are brought on by touch, by cold air. Stitches in the head with pulsation in temples, which can be felt with the fingers, ameliorated by hard pressure, but aggravated by touch. The jar and motion of walking hurt the head. Even turning over in bed aggravates. China patient cannot ride in a carriage or anything that jolts. He is ameliorated by hard pressure. Throbbing headaches aggravated by a draft of air in the open air from the slightest touch ameliorated by hard pressure. The scalp feels as if the hair was grasped roughly. It is sensitive to touch. Profuse sweating of the scalp. Headaches are aggravated at night. Headaches from sexual excesses and loss of animal fluids. We will now see how China affects the eyes of a person. Photophobia. Yellowness of the sclera. Exposure to cold wind will bring on neuralgia, which is ameliorated from keeping quiet and from keeping warm. Nocturnal blindness, dimness of vision. Feeling as if sand were in the eyes. Pains worse from light. Better in the dark. In the ear and the nose, you find the same sensitiveness, as in eyes, every little noise is painful. Ringing, roaring, buzzing and singing, chirping like crickets in the ears. Dry catarrh of the middle ear. Hardness of hearing is not infrequently the result of this condition. It gradually increases until there is total deafness, and the noises in the ear continue long after the patient has lost the ability to distinguish articulate sounds. Hemorrhage from the ear. Offensive, bloody. Purulent discharges. Some of the nose symptoms of China are as follows. Frequent nosebleed in anemic patients. Here, again, the dryness and catarrhal conditions. Dry coryza or fluent coryza, suppressed and causing violent head pains. Odors nauseate. Sensitiveness to the odors of flowers, cooking, tobacco. The face of China patient is withered, shrunken, sallow, anemic and sickly. Red when the fever is on and sometimes when the chill is on, but in the apyrexia China patient is pale, sickly and sallow. Neuralgia of the face which is tearing. Rending, knife-like pains with the usual modalities. The veins of the face are distended. This is frequently observed during the fever and sweat of the China intermittents. The teeth of China patient get loose and the gums swell. The teeth are painful while chewing, they feel too long. Toothache with every little cold. Rending, as if teeth were being pulled out, every time the child nurses at the breast. Exudations about the teeth and gums. Black and fetid great putridity in the lower forms of fever. Now we will see how China patient experiences the taste of the food. The taste is extremely acute. It is exaggerated so that nothing tastes natural. There is bitter taste in the mouth. Food tastes bitter or too salty. There is burning as from pepper on tip of the tongue. China patient feels dryness in the mouth and throat. There is difficulty in swallowing. Sometimes there is canine hunger, but one of the most common features is loathing of everything, aversion to all food. The China patient is often passive in regard to eating. He sits down to eat, and the food tastes fairly good, and he fills up. But it does not matter much whether he eats or not. There is loathing and violent hunger. There is hunger and yet want of appetite. Indifference to eating and drinking. Only while eating, some appetite and natural taste for food return. Also, China patient feels loss of appetite. He has aversion to all food. Aversion to bread. His appetite varies. Thirst of China patient is peculiar. The patient will say, "I know my chill is coming on now because I have thirst." China patient is thirsty before the chill, but as soon as the chill comes on, there is no thirst. But when he begins to warm up, he begins to get thirsty. That is, during the period in which the two lap, he is thirsty, but when the chill has fairly subsided and the heat is upon him, his thirst subsides also, and he only wants to wet his mouth. But as the hot spell begins to subside, he increases the amount taken, and all through the sweat, he can hardly get water enough. China patient has thirst before and after the chill, and thirst during the sweat. So there is no thirst during the chill, and no thirst during the hot spell. You will cure more cases of intermittent fever with ipecac and Nux vomica than with China. China has well-defined chill, fever and sweat. Now we will see how China affects the stomach of the patients. Gastric symptoms are felt from eating fish, fruit, and from drinking wine. There is flatulent distension almost to bursting. There are constant irritations, loud and strong, and yet no relief, so extensive is the flatulence. In carbo-veg, after belching a little, there is relief. Lycopodium has both. There is tympanitic distension of the abdomen and stomach of China patient in low forms of fever. He cannot move on account of soreness in the bowels. China patient has vomiting of blood which is sometimes followed by dropsy of the extremities. He has hiccough, he has nausea, he has vomiting. The irritations of China patient are tasting of food, or they are bitter, sour. There is frequent vomiting. Vomiting of sour mucus, bile, blood. Likely to occur at night. Pulsation in the stomach and rumbling. There is cold feeling in the stomach. There occurs fermentation after eating fruit. There is acidity. Disorders of the stomach after milk. Let us now see character of the diarrhea of China patient. It is copious, watery black discharges from the bowels. There is gurgling and rumbling in the abdomen. The stool immediately after eating and at night. Great quantities of flatus expelled from the bowels. Diarrhea comes on gradually. China stools are more and more watery. There is chronic diarrhea with emaciation and aggravation at night. Petroleum has a chronic diarrhea but only in the daytime.